So there's a couple of days left on the Universal Audio's free gifting of the LA-2A plugin, and they are famously the manufacturer of the real hardware counterpart to that plugin. And I thought, whilst there are heaps of people out there talking about the free plugin, maybe we should have a look at what the difference is between the real piece of hardware and the plugin. And this should be a great experiment because Universal Audio own the hardware and the plugin. It's their piece of technology. So arguably they should make the best plugin, we'd think anyway, right? So, and I've used both and I do think they do a good plugin version of the LA-2A. However, what we want to test today is how close really is the plugin to the hardware? What are the sonic differences between the two? And just remember, in all of these kind of use cases, okay, we're just listening and using our ears. Forget about your own biases, forget about budgets. Let's just have a listen and see what let's have a listen, not see. Let's have a listen and have a chat about what we hear. So, what I did to explain this experiment is I have an LA-2A where I work, and I took in a session and bounced out every single track, kick, snare, overheads, every individual stem. I bounced through the LA-2A and processed it with 2 to 5 dB of gain reduction and put that back into the Pro Tools session. Then what I did, and I'll show you now, is put an LA-2A on every original version of the stem. So we can compare the original stems with an LA-2A on them as a plugin, and then the exported, rebounced, reprinted stems that actually ran through the physical LA-2A, the real thing. So if you have a look at my tracks here, there'll be like a kick in and then a kick duplicate and so on. Any track that says duplicate is the hardware. Any track that just has the original name is the original track with the plugin on it. And you can see I've just got 1-to-1 across the whole track list there up the top. So what we're going to do is have a quick listen, and I've already had a listen to these tracks and I've formulated my own opinions, but we can have a listen together and I can point out in this video what I'm hearing, but I would also love you guys to tell me what you're hearing. So as we listen through, have a dive into the comments below and please let me know what you're hearing and what you think of the differences between the two, because there is differences. What I'm hearing is that there are definitely differences between the hardware versus plugin, but we'll get to that in a second. And as always, just remember, keep it kind in the comments. Please, no shitting on anyone, or, probably no shitting on me either. Anyway, let's get into it. So, all right, I'm going to pick a piece of this track. To start off with, we are looping just the plugin version. Here we go. Stressing on the waist and hips, body right, the world is sick. Stressing on the waist and hips, body right, the world is sick. Cool, so listen to that cymbal in particular. I just want you to focus right now on the ride and then the crash cymbal. Have a listen to that. Stressing on the waist and hips, body right, the world is sick. Now, let's have a listen to the LA-2A version. Stressing on the waist and hips, body right, the world is sick. Stressing on the waist and hips, body right. Hardware versus software. Stressing on the waist and hips, body right. Now, to me, there is a very, very clear difference in that cymbal, hardware versus plugin. Also, what I'm hearing already is that there seems to be a volume difference. Now, I should tell you this, I have actually level matched all of these tracks and they're equal level, all right? They're like so close within a dB range on all the peaks and stuff. Some of these meters might need to be reset, but I have gone through and I have tried to get all the tracks as close as possible on average where I can. This is like, let's just clarify for a second. This is really, really hard to do, to get equal compression on a non-linear type of compressor like an opto and get all of this exactly the same. But we're just listening for the audible differences with like frequency and compression and what are we hearing that's different, you know what I mean? So let's have a listen just to that cymbal. And what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to find where that cymbal is. Let's just hone in on that cymbal for a second. Have a listen. So this is digital, analog, digital, analog. And to me, it sounds a little bit louder, but it's also harsher. I'm getting a lot more harshness out of the cymbals in this track. I'm going to take it to a part where it gets even louder again, and there's much more going on. Let's have a listen to a phrase over here. Digital, so plug in. Hardware. Cool, and then let's just have a look over here at the master fader. Let's just have a listen to how loud we're metering on the plugin. And then we hit max a peak of 5.3 there. Let's look at the analog. So peak volumes, we're so close, like minus 5.3, minus 5.2, as close as I can really get it, right? But there is a very, very distinct tonality difference, especially once there's a lot going on in the song. There is a very distinct tonality difference. Number one for me is the cymbals. The cymbals stand out like crazy to me. They're so much softer running through the hardware than they are the plugin. The snare is a little bit louder, actually, I think, in the tracks, but it sounds like it's being compressed a bit harder. And I guarantee you, I was hitting the compressors the same. Now, this might be a calibration thing on the LA-2A I have at my work, but maybe it's compressing harder on the... It is actually compressing harder, and it sounds like it is a little bit, but it might just be the difference in tonality. To me, what I'm hearing different so far is that the hardware is softer with a bit more bottom end. It is definitely softening the harshness in the high frequencies. And it seems to be a bit warmer, a bit fatter. But it also tightens up a little bit in the low end, in the kick drum and the bass. Whereas the plugin just has that flabbiness that sometimes I hear in plugins. It just doesn't have that tightness that you get sometimes from analog gear. On top of that, to the analog stuff, it sounds like it's mixing. It's already adding quite a distinct EQ curve because of that. And then the analog stuff sounds brighter to me, so it kind of appears a bit louder, but it feels like it's letting stuff through. It feels to me like transients, like snare transients and stuff, are actually poking through, so things appear a bit louder. It's hard to put my finger on. Let's have another listen to just this section, and have a listen this time to the kick and the snare and some of the transient stuff and how that's different. Down low. Yeah, to me, it's really interesting. Like the snare, let's go out and just solo up the snare for this section. Let's have a little bit of a look. So they're very even here. Plug in. And to me, like, this is actually hitting pretty hard. It's hitting between 7 dB and 10 dB. It's actually getting a lot of that, like, it's apparently a lot of that transient, but I'm hearing like this is actually compressed more, even though it wasn't on the day. Now, the tonality difference of these compressors is completely different. They sound like two different snares to me. Have another listen. Like, this is crazy. Whoops. Hardware, plug-in. Like, listen to the spill. The tonality of both of those is completely different. It sounds like two different compressors entirely. Let's have a listen to the kick drum. Kick in. Let's start there, hey? So level-wise, we're about the same. On average, hitting around the same dB range. So this is the plugin. And this has way more weight to it. This to me sounds flabbier. Like, to me, I'm hearing on the kick drum that I'm getting a lot of, in the hardware version of the kick drum, I'm getting the tops, I'm getting a nice little sub kind of boost. It sounds almost scooped a little bit in the mids or something, but then the plug-in version just sounds flubby. Like, it's got this flubby, papery texture, like the mids are being either boosted or just not attenuated at all, in the same way as the hardware. So let's do a comparison of the kick out and have the same sort of comparison there. So lots of spill to listen for. Besides the kick drum, listen to the difference in the spill. This is what's insane to me. versus. Like this plug-in version to me sounds boxier versus like this one sounds like the low mids are scooped out of it or something like that. And maybe that's the plugin imparting mids in this one, or the hardware imparting a scooped mids. I'm not sure, but there is definitely a tonality difference. Besides the compression itself, there is definitely a difference. And then weirdly, we're getting more room spill in the plugin. So I'm not sure what that is either, but I was compressing as close as I can. Remember, I was aiming for 2 to 5 dB on average of compression, of gain reduction. And, you know, in the louder parts, obviously it's going to hit a little bit harder. In the quieter parts of the song, it's going to hit a bit softer. But that was kind of the range that I was aiming for in the original LA-2A hardware when I was reprinting. And I promise you, like, I was getting on average the same as what we're seeing on the meters here. And yeah, there's a very, very stark difference in the tonality. Now, you guys let me know what you're hearing down in those comments below, but this was just a bit of a kind of shootout to like hear what the real difference is. And to me, what I hear as a difference is the hardware has more lows. It is definitely softer in the highs. It definitely tames the harshness out of cymbals. It has a character, a much steeper sort of more it's like it's having more influence on the original track to me. It's actually crazy. So I feel like it's just doing more. It's imparting more to the signal than what the plugin is. The plugin's compressing, yes, but the hardware is putting more character into it. And you know, like, I'm not saying one's better than the other. All I'm saying is that they're quite different, and it's good to understand what these differences are so that we know when we use a plugin or a hard piece of hardware what we're going to get as a result. And maybe we know what we want to reach for. You know what I mean? Like, to me, the plugin is still letting transient information through like a faster compressor, as opposed to a real opto. Optos are quite slow, so they'll compress everything. And I'm hearing that like it's constantly compressing and compressing quite aggressively through the hardware, but the software version feels like it's still letting stuff through. And then so things appear a bit brighter and a bit more transient and a bit more like louder sometimes as well, but also harsher at the same time. Anyway, let's have one more listen to one part of the song. I'll pick a different part just to wrap it up. Software.
She paints up that face to make sure those blemishes hide. Coffee and cigarettes. She paints up that face to make sure those blemishes hide. Coffee and cigarettes. She paints up that face to make
Software.
sure those blemishes hide. She paints up that face to make sure those blemishes hide. Coffee and cigarettes. She paints up that face to make sure those blemishes hide. Coffee and cigarettes. She paints up that face to make sure those blemishes hide.
Even the floor tom that gets hit, there's a tom that gets hit and it sounds pokier through the software rather than the hardware. Anyway, let's have a listen to the vocals. That's one thing I forgot to do. Let's have a real comparison between the vocal here.
She paints up that face to make sure those blemishes hide.
So 10.7, 10.6.
She paints up that face to make sure those blemishes hide.
The tonality is completely different here. So we've level matched them, we're compression matching, but have a listen to the tonality difference. Have a listen to how different the quality of the vocal sounds and then what the compressor is actually doing and how that sounds. All right, let's think about it. In the compressor is adding a frequency response. So let's have a listen to that first.
She paints up that face to make sure those blemishes hide.
And then
She paints up that face to make sure those blemishes hide.
like, to me, the analog is harsher in the vocals.
She paints up that face to make sure those blemishes hide. She paints up that face to make sure those blemishes hide.
And then on top of that, the plugin for some reason has more spill. I don't know what that is, but the spill gets louder, way louder than what it does in the hardware. So we're metering, peak metering around the same. The compression is as close as I can match it to what I did with the hardware, and yet we're getting way more spill in the plugin version, and the vocals just sound a bit softer, maybe even a bit darker, and maybe not favorably darker actually in the lead vocal, but they sound softer and less harsh to me. I don't know. You guys let me know what you're hearing down in the comment section below. All right. I'm so keen to hear your thoughts on this test. If you like this shootout, let me know. And I can do much more shootouts like this where we compare plugins to real hardware, the real versions, because I'm lucky enough to have access to a lot of real vintage hardware. If there's any shootouts in particular that you'd like to see on this channel, let me know as well. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And thanks to everyone that's been subscribing to the channel. Just remember, you've got 2 days left to grab the free version of the LA-2A from Universal Audio. Even if you love it or hate it or whatever, go get it. It's free. So it's always good to have a free LA-2A plugin. I just think it's a very interesting comparison. What I'm hearing is actually way more drastic actually than I thought it was going to be, especially in the frequency response. To anyone out there that probably knows this stuff better than me, okay? I'm just someone who teaches how to use compression and uses the gear that's given to me. But if anyone knows what's going on with the differences here, why we're hearing these differences, maybe my test needs to be done in a better way. Maybe there's things I'm missing. Maybe there's something to do with the biasing of the hardware. I'm not sure. There might be all kinds of stuff that happens. But either way, I'm hearing a sonic difference, and I'm sure you guys will too. So just let's have a friendly discussion down below. And yeah, I'm interested to hear what you guys hear as well. So as always, thanks for sticking around. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I'm Mitch from the DIYRecordingstudio.com. I'll catch you soon.
I don't need advice, no. She paints up that face